Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take for Market Rebellion on this Monday morning. And in looking back to Friday, we had a little bit of volatility. We've been talking about the volatility index, and it's been trading 21, 22, fairly tight range, not very big swipes one way or the other. But we've been finding ourselves contracting that much more. A little bit of a different story when it goes back to last Friday. As a matter of fact, the one thing that really does stand out, though, is the derivatives markets themselves and how much volumes that we have had. And I'm going to hit on that in just a second. But we look at the volatility index, as I mentioned, it actually went out at 23, but got as high as 26, actually over 26. So it gives you a little bit of a sense of some of the nervousness because the markets were not down significantly. And yet you see the volatility starting to rise fairly fast to the upside, moving from those 22 levels all the way up towards 26, pulling back late in the day. And really what caused a lot of that pullback was the way the markets were shifting around. As a matter of fact, the Dow was kind of all over the place. It was mixed, it was volatile, it was moving around, but in a fairly tight range nonetheless. But a late surge once again, and that late surge actually pushed the markets not to the market highs of the day, but still up about 160 points. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, traded somewhat similarly, but always seemed to be in the positive, actually moving to the upside fairly early. It was up like 60 points, came back and it got somewhere around unchanged for a while, and then exploded in the final. And we've seen this time and time again, but in the final hour or so, maybe call it 2 hours, had a nice surge to the upside and actually watched the NASDAQ push up about 70 points. So a pretty strong day, and a lot of mechanics going on behind the scenes because of what's going on today, actually starting to trigger a little bit, not only all last week, but specifically on Friday. There's no doubt about that. So gold, and quietly, very, very quietly, sort of approaching again towards that 2000 level. Still a ways off, 1972, but it's nearing that 2000 level, as I mentioned, and that could be something fairly interesting, I think. Now, what was powering the markets in terms of the NASDAQ? Because the NASDAQ really was showing the most strength throughout the session. It was names like Wynn. We talked about the casinos being fairly hot. We also talk about what's going on behind the scenes, and a lot of talk, more and more building around vaccines and a little bit more positive sort of potential going forward. And all of that coming from not only the biotech world, but also the pharmaceutical world, no doubt about that. But what I say is really reacting to that was casino stocks. They've been moving strong to the upside. And then take a look over at some of these hotel stocks. Actually, even look at these cruise lines. We've seen some option paper there. We've also seen some movement with Norwegian and Carnival and names like Marriott moving to the upside as well. Airlines, casinos, hotels, that sort of theme. And that's the theme of, is there some kind of vaccine coming? And is there a little bit more of a positive attitude about what's going on in terms of the virus starting to maybe sift a little bit lower in terms of the rates? And potentially, is there something in the vaccine world? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But a lot of this really is just sort of the setup into what was going to happen with the split. And when I say the splits, I should say splits, because we're talking about both Tesla and Apple. Now, think about Tesla for a little while I get into what's going on today and Apple, because Tesla is going to be an interesting one we're going to hit on as I get towards the end of the take today. So you want to stay tuned for that one. I guarantee you that. Now, early on, we're looking at the Dow. It's down about 100 points. And it's been an incredible August, actually the best August in over 30 years. So from that perspective, a 100-point move to the downside. We were just up 160 on Friday, sort of washing one with the other. As a matter of fact, I'm looking over and I do see out of the corner of my eye, we are down about 162 points now. And that's just in the last couple of minutes since I sat down, the markets have slipped a little bit more. So giving back Friday's gains, at least so far. Now, Apple, we've got the split. And here we are trading in the 120s. Actually, 126 last I looked is where Apple's trading now. So we've got the split in place. We've also got the split in for Tesla. We'll definitely hit on that a little bit more later on. But what's really dragging on the Dow right now, because Apple's actually higher. Apple's leading in the Dow. But it's names like Boeing, 3M, and then, of course, you look over at the financials, which is actually have had a pretty nice run up into the 25s for the XLF. But we're seeing a little bit of a pullback today, and those names like JP Morgan and Visa and Goldman Sachs all in the Dow pulling to the downside. You've got Disney also pulling to the downside. So it's more of a tech-weighted move to the upside right now in terms of the Dow, no doubt about that. Now, materials and financials, they're off, and they've started off. They continue to be off in terms of how the markets are getting pulled as well. As I mentioned, it's not significant, but certainly something to watch. We're only 30 minutes exactly into the trading session, and those off decently right now, particularly the financials. So in the NASDAQ, you still got that dislocation because it's in the green. And a little bit of a move. Right now, I'm showing the NASDAQ up about 32, while I'm looking at the Dow that's up, or down rather, 172 now. So what's really pushing on the NASDAQ right now? I mentioned a lot of tech. So you've got Apple, but you also have some of the other areas of the marketplace that we always talk about when we're talking about what's going on behind the scenes underneath. You've got Zoom, you've got Tesla, you've got Juniper. So technology, there's no doubt about it, but also add in biotech. Look at the XBI, not so much for the IBB, but look at the XBI. It's up about 2% today. Vertex and BioMarin and Alexion, a lot of different names pushing markets around a little bit right now. But you look at that XBI, fairly balanced index, is up about 2%. So that's something that absolutely stands out. A little bit of positive move out of the SMH as well, but not nearly to the strength that we have seen when it's really been flying to the upside. So it really is more of a big tech move right now rather than semiconductors, and also add in the biotech, and that's what's really pushing the NASDAQ, at least holding the NASDAQ up about 36 points and staying in the green. Now, volatility. Again today, popping. It's up about 9%. And the volatility index, last I looked, trading just above 25. So we've got a pretty strong move there. And obviously, looking at the Dow, you got a little bit of a push to the downside. But given the fact that the Dow is closer to 28,500, 160 or 70 point move, not a very significant move. As a matter of fact, just a little bit better than about a 0.5% to the downside. So the first 20 minutes of the day, we have had some incredible, unusual option activity again. And I say that often, and the reason I say that often is because it's true. As a matter of fact, we had 6 unusuals hit in the first 20 minutes of the day. That's pretty strong, pretty significant. And of those names, the furthest out expiration is September 25th. Everything else, September 4th and different weeks in September, but the furthest out, and there's only one of them, was out to September 25th. So I'm going to give you an unusual, and it's not September 5th. It's actually September 4th, which is this coming Friday. Yes, tomorrow will be September, and we're going to be welcoming in September. And as we push through 2020, which has been a really interesting year for a lot of us, and we all know how difficult and how taxing, and unfortunately, for many people, much, much worse because of the loss of friends and loved ones and all the rest of it. But it's just been a crazy year, and we all are fully aware of that. So as we push into September, as we look to the expiration cycle, I'm looking at Tesla. Now, Tesla, now that they've gone through their split, Tesla, last I looked, $450 is exactly about where it was trading. So what did we see? We saw 8,100. So that's a pretty decent sized trade of the September, this Friday, expiring 500 strike calls. And they're trading for about 7.5 all the way up to about $8 for these options. So not inexpensive, very, very short time frame, but somebody seems to feel like Tesla could potentially get up towards 500. Now, if it starts to move up in a hurry over the next couple of days, those options certainly could start to move, because even though time is working against you, they need an accelerated move to the upside. If not, that premium is going to start coming out fairly rapidly, folks, because these are September 4th. That's Friday. So you got to look at that cycle. You're going to be losing a little bit each and every day in terms of time value. And so you just have to really understand the mechanics of that whole thing. And when I say that, what I really mean by that is you've got to be educated. You have to understand. And that's the environment we are in. We've talked about the growth. We've talked about some of these extraordinary numbers. When we look at volumes like this past Friday, we were well over 32 million contracts. Matter of fact, looking back, and you look at Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week, wow, these volumes all well over 30 million per day, and very, very strong active trading. It seemed as if each day was just that much more active in terms of unusual option activity, just across the board. Not any one specific area. Across the board, we've been seeing incredible option volumes and incredible activity. So if you see that and you understand that, and you see me talking about this on the take for I don't know how many months now, you have to understand, if you have that knowledge, you have a better understanding of better ways for risk management. And that's what our guys here are all about. The guys and gals that educate people are unbelievable, and you're going to want to check them out, because this is the growth area of the markets. And I talk about it each and every day. because it is the actual growth area of the market, and we talk about it each and every day. A little bit like Apple. Talk about services, now you've been talking about wearables. And as you combine those two, you're getting closer and closer to what was the hardware portion of the phone. You're getting a lot closer in terms of the combination of revenue, just to show you just how strong that growth area is. That's what it's like in the derivatives markets right now. Folks, have a great day of trading. We'll see you later on. I am not on anything for CNBC today. However, we do have cash flow portfolio coming at you pretty soon, as well as the roundtable this week. Wait till you hear our guest. She's going to be absolutely, and I did say she is going to be absolutely outstanding. You're going to want to tune in right away, right after the close today. Folks, have a great day of trading.